I'm generally going after, a bigger animal, that one certain animal.
For me, the archery, I'm in it for the experience. I'm in it for the encounter. I'm in it to hear the bugle. With archery, you're playing a game of chess. So
With a rifle, your advantage just increases so much more to, make your success so much more. So
it makes it easier to hunt. That's what I love to do. And so for me, it's a no-brainer. I go with archery. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess. So today we're shooting our fourth episode. I'm here with
AJ.
And we're going to talk about rifle versus archery hunting. In the last podcast, we kind of talked about how you can get into hunting and why you should get into hunting. And now, for those of you who are continuing with us, we really appreciate it. We're going to go into rifle versus archery. So we feel like this is the next step in kind of deciding your path in hunting. And we're going to kind of give you some information and just some ideas on whether you should get into archery or rifle, or maybe you're already into archery and rifle and you're thinking about switching or trying something new. So here we go. So AJ's a rifle hunter. He's going to kind of take on that stance. I'm an archery hunter, and we're just going to kind of dive in and tell you what it is, if you don't know, real quick, and then why you should do either. And before I forget, if you would leave us a 5-star rating on any podcast platform that you may be listening to on, and then subscribe to us and like on YouTube. That'll help us grow this thing and help more people get into the outdoors. So we love you and we appreciate it. So we're going to let AJ get into what he thinks about rifle hunting right now, and then we'll go from there.
Alrighty, guys. Well, let's just dive in. So what's the difference, Rifle hunting, I guess it would be a little more advantage for hunting, I would say. You have a little more capability with it. You can have a scope on it. You can have, certain calibers that are, better for long range, shorter range, different size animals, etc. A little more knockdown power, all that. So it's a really big, the rifle area is a very big range, but the rifle itself, once you kind of pick the platform you want to go with, you're elk hunting, say like a 300 Win Mag, you can really dive into the fact of like, okay, I want to get a custom built 300 Win Mag. That would be, a custom barrel, a fast twist barrel on a good action. They'll be mated together perfectly to where there's no slop in them or anything like that. You'd be hand loading your cartridges, a very precision rifle. So you can kind of go at whatever level you want there for the rifle. And I think your biggest thing would be like an optic on it. You could go at any level of an optic and really see the difference, whether it's 1,000 yards out there or even further than that, but even closer up, you'll have a much clearer image. I think that pretty well covers up what the rifle is. I'll kind of
so for the archery, obviously you're using a bow. And nowadays, if you want an advantage with a bow, use a compound bow. And when you're getting into this, it's important to go to a bow shop and have them fit your draw length and everything like that, and they can help you out with that. Or if you're confused on picking a bow, we can shoot a pot on that. But so what the goal is with a rifle, the advantage is being able to shoot further with a bow. Most people say the number is around 40 to 50 yards. That's the max that they would shoot with a bow. With a rifle, like AJ said, you can shoot up to 1,000. I mean, I wouldn't shoot at 1,000, but people now are shooting at 1,000, which seems ridiculous. But
yeah, I don't think, like for a sportsman, obviously there's people that do it ethically and everything like that. But for me personally, I don't feel like that's just an ethical shot, shooting that far at an animal,
Right. So with the difference between a bow and a rifle is the guns, the weapons are obviously different, but that's not the big difference. The big difference to me is the experience. So the experience that you're going to gain or you're going to get with an archery setting with a bow is completely different than most rifle hunts. So you're going to be calling in the animal. They're going to be in rut. So you're going to have that like 40 yards and closer, hopefully, if you're lucky and you know what you're doing. You're going to get that animal, closer than 50 yards. and then you're going to have to execute a proper shot onto the animal, and in hopes to, kill it ethically and fast. So it's a completely different experience. With archery, you are calling, you're interacting with the animal, you're close to the animal, and you're like getting the feeling of what it's like to be with the animals. And then with a rifle,
I feel like with a rifle, your advantage just increases so much more to, make your success so much more. So I don't think, obviously neither's a right or wrong answer, but with a rifle, you're going to have a lot better advantage over the animal, being able to, have a little bit more distance between you and the animal. But kind of like Brent's saying there, your experience might not be, that close, super close encounter. Especially I know like my rifle that I hunt with, my scope is so powerful that like if that animal was at 30, 40 yards, like all I'd see is some hair, I'd never even be able to make a shot because it'd be way too close. So that animal needs to be out there probably at least 100 yards or further, for it to really be perfect, set up for the rifle. So that's kind of, I feel like the experience difference is, the rifle, you're going to have that little bit of gap, that air breathing room between you and the animal.
which makes it easier to hunt them.
Yeah, a lot easier, I would say, your archery hunting, you're going to be a lot more, hiking, getting around, getting really close encounters, you just kind of not stumble upon them, but, you got to have that luck side come in, you're right there in on them. A rifle, you might be able to, hunt a little bit differently, drive a little bit, more, not like doing more glassing and then find them, then kind of put a stock on, get close enough and, pull the trigger, whatever. But you're not necessarily calling them in. You're not, you can, but you're not getting that super gratifying experience, I feel like, right up with them.
Yeah. So the pros of archery hunting, the why I love it is the experience of being in with the animals and hearing the elk bugle back to you and interacting, and you're basically, with archery, you're playing a game of chess. So you have to make the right moves. There's a lot of luck that goes into it when it comes to windage and stuff like that. Your smell, because you're so close to them that you can't be smelt by them, you can't be seen by them, can't be heard by them. And so it's really like this super, super complex game of chess. And with the experience that I get from rifle hunting, and obviously it can be different, but you're kind of like just a silent assassin that's a ways away.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, execute a shot that the elk doesn't even know you're there. And hopefully archery hunting, the elk doesn't know you're there either, but you're interacting with them. They're hearing your cow call, they're hearing you bugle, and with rifle, they're not hearing you. Most of the time they're too far away to smell you. And so it's just a completely different experience when it comes to rifle hunting versus archery hunting. Obviously, like he's talking about, the big thing is if your goal is to kill one, the success standards or the success rates are way higher with rifles because of that ability to, you don't have to be perfect when it comes to finding the elk and getting a shot on the elk. Obviously, your shot needs to be good, but you can whisper to your buddy and, you can sit there and look at him and wait and make that shot, where with archery, it's bang, 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 and you need to be basically perfect if you want to kill an elk with a bow.
I think it like really ties back to that experience, like the experience that you want out of the hunt is really what you need to decide between the two, right? Because if you want that really close encounter, but maybe not success, I think, that archery's way, you're after that experience. That's what you're worried about. You're not worried about, but that's what you're after, A rifle, if you're, wanting a late season cow, I would say that rifle is your better opportunity, you just want to go out and get some fast meat. That rifle is the ticket for the job, and that's the pros of a rifle. Hunting with a rifle is it takes out all that guesswork, that chess game. I mean, there's still a chess game, but not such a tightly played chess game. You skip a lot of those steps of the chess game. You're playing on the back half of the board. You're not playing on that front half where you're really up against it, it feels like,
And so I always compare archery hunting somewhat to like fly fishing. So if you're familiar with like fishing, fly fishing is harder. You have to be more precise with the fly and the cast and everything, and it's tougher to do. The way I look at like shooting a rifle, 800 to 1,000 yards. Yes, you have to be talented with a rifle and very confident and accurate with a rifle to successfully kill an elk at 1,000+ yards. But the way I look at that as an archery guy is it's like putting like worms on a like a hook and throwing it in the pond versus like having to, make a great cast with a fly rod and mend the line just right and make that display look good enough for a fish to bite it. That's how I view archery. And so for me, talking about the experience, I think archery is, for me, and like we agree to some extent, but
Yeah.
For me, the archery, I'm in it for the experience. I'm in it for the encounter. I'm in it to hear the bugle. That's what I love to do. And so for me, it's a no-brainer. I go with archery hunting. I love archery hunting. And it's not so much that I get to shoot a bow. It's just I get that close, adrenaline-filled, shaking adrenaline when I'm in the middle of the elk.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, maybe some of the cons of, a rifle is you don't have that super close encounter. And, some more of those cons is everything is so precise on a rifle, right? Like because you're so far away that, okay, you're bouncing around in the truck in the morning, you spill your coffee on your scope, whatever, it may be, it can just, even you drop it, you fall, whatever, it throws it off a little bit, right? Then boom, you go to pull the trigger and you're so far off that it's not even,
At 800 yards.
Yeah, at 800 yards,
you're
that
way off.
That, very fraction, a hair that you knocked your scope off, all of a sudden 800 yards is a pretty big difference. So I think that's a huge con. You just got to be a lot carefuler with it. Or a bow. I mean, not only do you practice so much more with a bow, I feel like, than a rifle generally, but with a rifle, you wouldn't like. You can't just make up for the air, right? Like if you are going to go shoot something with a bow and you're like, oh, all my pins just fell off, you can just like, you can almost eyeball it a little bit, right?
Oh, if you're Cameron Haynes.
I mean, a certain number of people, but you at least stand an opportunity. Or with a rifle, you're done. It's just like you are done. Any damage happens to it. And I mean, if you're an ethical hunter, you're just done right there. You have to fix it before you can continue. And I think, it's just like anything, it's just a lot more machinery, type, gun. And you have to make sure that everything's proper for it to work right. When it does work right, obviously it's a very, very deadly weapon, and it's, probably the best option for success for sure.
Yeah. So wrapping this thing up, I think the biggest thing that you need to decide if you're kind of, do I archery hunt or rifle hunt? I think one of the biggest things you need to decide is what kind of experience you want and what you're willing to put into it. Not that rifle hunting is easier, but I think that the majority of the time, archery hunting, you need to be willing to be more physical. I think you need to be willing to walk further. Yeah. You're not like, to get that encounter, you can't just drive up to them in a truck and shoot them at 30 yards. You're going to have to get away from your Ranger, away from your truck. And I think it takes a lot more practice when it comes to calling. Like calling takes practice, shooting a bow takes practice. You got to think like you're not resting the bow on anything. You're up, shaking. And so
there's a lot more technique in with the archery hunting for sure.
Yeah. But with that, it yields a really crazy experience. And if you're just in it for meat, obviously archery is probably not your deal. But if you're in it for the experience and the adrenaline, and you enjoy hiking and being physical and learning how to do all of this stuff, I think archery is a great thing for everyone to get into and push yourself a little bit here and there. But that I really enjoy archery hunting. So I'm kind of an advocate for, it's not that I hate rifle hunting or have any disrespect for it, but it's just, I like that encounter. I don't like sitting on a hill 300 yards away and shooting at something. I like being like 30 yards away and shooting at something.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I love, the rifle, is you just have that advantage in that situation. Especially I'm generally going after, a bigger animal, that one certain animal, and it's super hard to get in close to that one animal. Say it's an elk with a bunch of cows. It's going to be really hard to get in on that one bull with a bunch of cows. Got a rifle, okay, you got a little more options. You're a little further away. You can kind of pick him out once he gets away from them or whatever. But, it just increases that chance, I feel like. And that's what, I like that advantage. Not that I don't like archery hunting or, even muzzleloader hunting per se, but with a rifle, you just up that opportunity. You get, you put in the effort of finding the animal, a big one, and you put that effort in, you find it, and you're like, all right, let's go get the job done, right? And it's not a matter of like, it is a matter of maybe I'm not going to be successful, but it's like you feel a lot more confident going to kill something with a rifle. I feel like, I walk into like a rifle hunt and I'm just like, yep, if the right one steps out, it's dead, right? Like that's literally how I walk into it. Where with a bow, it's like, well, I don't know, if we find the right one, it's gonna be pretty hard. Let's get it done. But I think that's where I've become really a big fan of muzzleloader hunting, honestly. And that's something I've really been getting into the last couple of years. Is it's a really good in between the rifle and the archery, because like I love that interaction, right? And it's a little bit more advantage than the archery. I would say like between 100 yards and 150 yards, they're very deadly, but much more than that, you're starting to push the luck with a muzzleloader. It's like 200 yards, you're really starting to push it. I feel like there's people out there, of course, that can shoot them long range, everything, but especially here in Colorado with iron sights, we have to have open sights. We can't have any scopes, not any, advantage at all. That's one of those things that's a really great in between the rifle and the archery. And I know even in other states, it's one of the, good in between for that little bit more interaction, but not quite so drastic that you're, able to get into archery for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of our take on,
I think that's
on archery versus rifle. It just I think the biggest thing, you have to figure out is what kind of hunt do you want? Do you want that encounter, or do you want that chance at a bigger animal? So I think that's where we wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's it. Decide on the experience that you really want, and that's going to help you decide between the rifle and the archery. But hopefully what we discussed there will help you with that decision, kind of give you a little more in-depth detail on it. And thanks, guys. Love you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yeah, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments if you're watching them on YouTube, and you can DM us. We'll have our socials on the screen, or if you're listening on Spotify, it's at cook.bros on Spotify, or on Instagram, sorry, for me. And then
Stoffel 800 on Instagram. That's Stoffel, Stoffle 800. And then on Facebook at just AJ Stoffel.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, reach out. We'll shoot a little poo with you and figure out maybe what hunting is right for you. But that's our take. That's our opinion. And until next time on Let's Assess, love you. Peace out. We're out.
Catch you guys later.